Episode 19. This summer Ian jumped when he heard that I had killed the demon lord. It didn't matter to her how she could have killed him. Why on earth did you do such a dangerous thing? She was really angry because her words included the word act. She didn't even realize she had said it. My younger brother is dead, so would the old man in Hyolkiondoma be still there? So, please train hard so you can't touch me. Even if you practice for 30 years, you won't be able to stop it. Then you win. Because he would have died of old age. Ian sighed at my carefree reaction. From the moment you really changed, my life became twice as difficult. Ha ha. Then you will lose weight and it will be good. Young master. Not only Ian but also the school was in an uproar. The impact itself was different from the news that a disciple of Hyolkiondoma had died by my hand. I felt the change even on the way to Kionmajian at my father's call. The way they looked at me had changed. Many people expected that the successor would be his older brother. But now things are starting to change. When I won in Bimu, people were excited and made a wish for hunting, which became a hot topic. I was surprised at my courage when I killed the disciple of Hyolkiondoma. And now the demon lord has been killed. Ian said that everyone only talks about me when they meet. My popularity soared in an instant because everyone hated Margun, who had caused many problems as if he were an ordinary person. There were even warriors who came up to me and said hello. Of course, no one directly said that's cool or well done. This is because he was afraid of the after effects of Hyolkiondoma. All he did was approach me without saying a word, embrace me and give me a respectful look. I could feel the support for me in those eyes. The people who came and greeted me like this were people who wanted me to become their successor. I accepted their greetings one by one and headed to Kionmajian. In the Heavenly Horse Hall, my father, Commander-in-Chief Simaming, and the Blood Heavenly Sword Demon 9 Heavenly Sect were waiting for me. He first greeted his father and Simaming, and then greeted Hyolkiondoma. It's been a while, old man. How have you been, Mr. Lee? Compared to the seriousness of the situation of his younger brother's death, Hyolkiondoma was calm. The eccentric and unique prayer that Hyolkiondoma showed when he visited me the other day was nowhere to be found. I would not dare to reveal such a prayer in front of my father. How on earth did this happen? I wrote it all down in the report. I want to hear it directly from Gongya Lee. Although he was in front of his father, Hyolkiondoma was calmly saying what he wanted to say. My father and Simaming may have thought that it was the right of a bloodthirsty demon, but they did not interfere and just watched him do what he did. Through the investigation, we discovered my brother's serious crime. They tried to kill me in the process of arresting me. I apologize to you. It's okay. If your brother is guilty, he should be punished. But what I don't understand is that even though my brother is a pathetic bastard, he is not foolish enough to attack Li Gongjae when his guilt is clearly revealed. It is assumed that after being captured obediently, he asked his older brother for help. I prevented that situation in advance. I don't know why you did that. Maybe he couldn't accept being caught by a young me. After staring at me for a moment, Hyolkiondoma opened his mouth again. I saw the body before coming here. I heard you stabbed him with one blow. Yes. I didn't go into detail about the fight. Prolonged speech in unfavorable situations can lead to mistakes and loopholes. For now, it is best to leave it to Thomas's imagination. He couldn't ask any questions about the fight here with his father watching. Regardless of whether he was stabbed in the back or stabbed in the soles of his feet, the belief that the dead person was an idiot and an idiot was at the core of our school's magic. Li Gongya's martial arts skills were much more outstanding than I thought. I guess I benefited from my father. I was excited, but the demon lord wouldn't have been able to give me his all. I guess so. Hyolkiondoma expressed his gratitude to me with a gentle smile. Thank you for being honest. Thanks to you, I feel at ease. You're welcome. His anger must have reached its peak as his disciple died and his younger brother also died. We literally became enemies of Hyolkion, but Hyolkion did not show even the slightest anger. It was a moment where I could see how well he was able to control his emotions. Before leaving the Heavenly Demon Hall, Hyolkiondoma looked at his father. When he first came to see me, he said twice that he would come to my father with my head. It meant that he was confident in his relationship with his father. So, shouldn't Hyolkiondoma say something like this at this moment? Sir, can you do this to me? If you were going to catch your brother, you should have called me first and resolved it. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. However, there was no sign of regret anywhere in Hyakion Doma's eyes. His father's gaze towards him was also the same as usual. We have to prepare for the funeral, so go and rest. Thank you for your consideration, Master. Hyakion Doma bowed politely and then turned around. He didn't even glance at me as he walked down the red carpet. When he withdrew, Sima Ming finally opened his mouth. Thank you for your hard work. Because the evidence gathered by Li Gongye was solid, the case was able to be concluded without any problems. Are you hurt anywhere? Thanks for your concern, I'm okay. Sima Ming must have had a lot of questions about this unexpected result, but he didn't ask me. Since it was probably my father who entrusted me with investigating this case, I guess he ultimately thinks that it is a problem between him and me. The leader gave a reward to a person who made a great contribution. One of the Kion Magian demons brought a long wooden box. I could guess how important what was inside was from the careful steps. When I opened the lid, which was engraved with an elegant yet luxurious pattern, there was a sword inside. I was surprised to see that it was a dark magic sword. The second most valuable sword after the heavenly demon sword is given. The sect leader gave Gongye Li a black magic sword. I was so happy that I smiled brightly. I joked for no reason out of joy that I couldn't hide. If you're going to give it to me, you have to give me a noble white flower sword that matches my temperament. My father said with an expression that could not possibly be true. The sword that suits you is a dark magic sword. You don't know your son too much. GM, do you think so too? I slowly pulled out the dark magic sword. The cold chill that radiated from the sword took over the hall. No internal power was injected, so the energy came purely from the sword. I knew it the moment I pulled out the sword. This sword is my sword, a sword that suits me very well. Isn't this award too undeserved? In my humility, Sima Ming spoke for my father. It's not excessive. The Demon Lord problem was the most difficult problem at our school. You passed that trouble on to me. I didn't expect you to handle it so neatly. Sima Ming was once again impressed and asked his father. Did you expect this to happen, leader? My father shook his head. I felt lucky if I didn't die from fussing. I know that's not the case. He probably sent it because he trusted me. He knew that he had achieved great success in the Baishan sword technique, and since he had taken it from Sochendong to Mahjongdan, he must have believed that he would not be easily defeated. Of course, the outcome of the Demon Lord's death was unexpected. And I also know why my father put down his sword. This is what I say to Hyakion Doma. I take the credit, so at least don't mess with my son for this matter. It's a silent warning. There is no way that the quick-witted Hyakion Doma would not be able to guess what that means. Thank you, father. After raising my sword and properly expressing my gratitude, I left Kion Magian. On the way back to my residence, someone called me. The sun is nice, Li Gongye. Let's take a break. Hyakion Doma was sitting in the vacant lot in front of the flower garden. Yeah, there's no way this old man is just going to leave. I walked slowly and sat down in front of him. His eyes focused on the black magic sword strapped to my waist. I felt him clenching his molars. The resentment may be deep, but they don't dare do anything about me. It looks like it will be unusually hot this summer. As soon as I finished speaking, Hyakion Doma shouted. This little bastard with no blood on his head. How dare you ambush my brother and kill him? Today, I will dismember your body and sprinkle it on my brother's grave. The magical energy emitted from the blood heavenly blade swept around. The flowers in the garden withered in an instant. Where was this energy hidden in that skinny body? I tried to maintain my composure as much as possible while raising my internal strength to fight against the demonic force. The next moment, the demonic energy disappeared as if it were a lie, and Blood Heavenly Demon grinned and said, I should have said this originally, right? He tried to stab me in the side again with the end of the handle of the sword. But this time, I also shouted as I blocked the digging handle with my palm. You're a fucking old man who's been fucking his age. How dare you destroy the discipline of our school and serve your own self-interest? If you come forward for the sake of your corrupt younger brother, I will break your skinny body like a tree. I also added with a grin. If that were the case, I would have said this too, right? Hyakion Doma, who was dumbfounded for a moment, burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha. His laughter was so loud that the demon standing guard in the distance looked in this direction. Then, Hyakion Doma suddenly stopped laughing. His face was so blunt as if he had never smiled before, and his emotions were constantly changing. Still, shouldn't you have looked at my face? It would have been handled in a good way. I tried to end it by resigning from my position. But even though I crossed the line, I went way too far. No, there was no line at all. Hyul Kyundoma nodded. It was my brother's business, how could I not have known about it? I am not someone who is not interested in school politics. Markuan, you knew about my infidelity, right? I knew it. Why did you leave it alone? You didn't listen to me. If you know it, I'm not a very clean person either. I was surprised that Hyul Kyundoma spoke honestly about his relationship with his younger brother. You have to be careful in times like this. Hyul Kyundoma is clearly an emotional person. And he is a person who knows how to use those emotions. I was honestly relieved when I heard the news that my brother had died. Now that guy won't block my path. I understand that feeling. When Hyul Kyundoma opened his small, torn eyes wide, he said, "Really?" I felt like I was asking, "How are you?" It would be like hearing the news that my brother died. I'll be relieved that I don't have to do it myself. His and my gaze became intertwined in the air. I saw fire in his eyes again. What is in my eyes that he sees? What do you see in me? I couldn't tell what Hyul Kyundoma was thinking. Regardless of the relief, he said, he may be plotting to kill me since he is the enemy who killed my brother. Or, the past may have been carried away by the clouds. I have no regrets. If I don't survive the fight with you Parmesans, I'll be killed by fire weapons anyway if I'm only that good. I have to step on you lightly and move on. That's how you live. Hyul Kyundoma looked up at the sky and finally received the greeting I first gave him. Yeah, it's going to be hot this year. Hyul Kyundoma said that it was already hot and gently fanned himself with the large blade of Myolkian dado. One thing was certain, the sun wouldn't be the only reason we were getting hot this summer. I shaded my forehead with my hand and looked up at the sky together. Luckily, I don't get hot. Episode 20 We Are the Devil. When you receive a new sword, the first time is important. The sword communicates with the warrior, and a peerless sword such as the black magic sword cannot be compared to other swords in terms of the depth of communication. There is no case where the sword rejects the wielder, but if communication is not established well, the sword's power cannot be brought out to its full potential. The same applies when you don't properly understand the nature of the sword. A weapon with the energy of extreme yin is used by a person with the inner energy of extreme yang, or a weapon of the Buddha gate is used by a person with evil power. Additionally, the way you handle the sword is also important. Handling a sword with a rough nature like this black magic sword gently, or handling a soft white flower sword roughly. In this case, the sword's power cannot be fully utilized. In my life before returning, I once saw a sword assimilate with its owner and cry on its own. The sight was truly spectacular and I thought I would like to have a sword like that. Can I become so assimilated with this sword? After controlling my mind with a fortune-telling meal, I pulled out the black magic sword. Even though no real energy was injected, the sword itself's noble energy made the surroundings cool. Nice to meet you. I will be your master from now on. I slowly injected internal power into the black magic sword. It was the first time my inner strength and the dark magic sword met. And Jeongang started to frost. Blue waves resembling the sky rippled along the blade. It's definitely different. The color of the sword was different from before. I thought it would be deeper and darker because it was a black magic sword, but instead it was a brighter and brighter blue color. I really like the change in the color of the sword, as if there are times when you are more impressed by small things. I like you. I hoped that my feelings would be conveyed to the dark magic sword. After retrieving the sword, this time he used the Baishan sword technique. The dark magic sword is not a soft sword. Chozik must be used with as much force and roughness as possible in accordance with the nature of the sword. The Vichan sword technique performed with the black magic sword gave a different feeling from what had been performed previously. After finishing my first meal, I spoke to the sword in my heart. For the time being, we will survive with this sword method. I'll teach you some really awesome martial arts skills later. Let's hold on until then. Got it? I tried to communicate with the dark magic sword. Since it wasn't enough to just convey my heart, I trained again and again until I became familiar with the black magic sword. I train after eating, and I train as soon as I open my eyes. Sometimes I practiced without even eating. Even when I slept, I held it in my hand. I practiced even in my dreams. For a while, I devoted myself to training. Today, as I left home to go to the training center, I was startled by the sight that unfolded before my eyes. Hundreds of demons were filling the large vacant lot in front of the house. They were demons, subordinates of Hyul-Kian Doma. I couldn't tell if Hyul-Kian Doma had ordered him to come or if he had come voluntarily, but it was clear that his feelings toward me were hostile. The magical energy they gave off poured down on me along with their cold eyes. Without realizing it, I bit down on my molars. Even in my long life before returning, I had never received the energy of so many people at once. Even good vibes can be tiresome, but this was clearly murderous intent. If you hold on any longer, you will suffer internal injuries. However, as they did not retreat, their demonic energy became stronger. Indeed, demonic energy poured into my body like a shower. A secret technique that suddenly came to mind when my whole body felt like it was being torn apart. I accepted the magic energy as it was and began to use one phrase. Kian Alma strengthening technique. It was one of several secret techniques I had learned in my life before returning, and it was a secret technique that could strengthen the blood vessels. The blood vessel, which is the passage of true energy, is the most important part of a warrior's body, but it is also the most difficult part of a warrior's body to make strong. The Qi vein strengthening technique is a secret technique that strengthens the blood vessels by having several warriors simultaneously fire bets and tap on the target's entire body. The greater the number, the better the effect. It was rare to have the opportunity to receive so much demonic energy at once, so I took the risk and used the heavenly vein strengthening technique. I was hoping to be able to use it someday, but I never thought it would be today. When I closed my eyes and made an expression of pain, the guys were so excited that it was right that they poured out even stronger magical energy. More. I frowned as much as I was happy. They probably wanted me to back off. He probably wanted to hide inside the house to avoid the devil. They probably wanted to pressure me here for several days and turn me into a coward who couldn't even leave the house. I moved forward one step at a time, using the celestial vein strengthening technique. Then the demonic energy poured out even more strongly. The blood vessels in my entire body convulsed, and the true energy swirled around my entire body at a frightening speed, following the curves of the blood vessel strengthening technique. Now, the level of heavenly vein strengthening art was continuing through the heretic level and the third level. More. The more they took a step forward, the more their magical power convulsed. It was a battle of momentum and pride. How many steps did you take like that? Before I knew it, the heavenly vein strengthening art had passed through the divisions and was heading towards the final stage, the Odin. Originally, such rapid achievement was impossible. The most difficult thing in the heavenly vein strengthening technique is to make the minds of the casters coincide and create one energy. The emotion contained in the magical energy flying towards me right now was hostility. The magic energy that seemed to pour out endlessly began to gradually fade away. There was a limit to the demon's ability to pour out their magical energy. When the demon energy completely disappeared, I opened my eyes. The Kian mark strengthening technique was performed after completing the last 5 steps. Thanks to this, my blood vessels have become stronger than before. I saw the demons looking at me. They all had shocked and disgusted faces. You probably didn't know that I would be able to withstand the magic until the end. It was a mean and shameful thing to come and pour out evil energy like a pack of dogs, but I thought they would forgive me for today. I walked towards them slowly. Even though hundreds of people had gathered, the only sound I could hear was my footsteps. If someone shouted, "Kill me," at this time, there was tension as if the room would turn into a sea of blood in an instant. And the winner of this fight was me. By withstanding the demon energy that flew in earlier, the spirit of the demons had already been broken. The demons in the lead dodged to the side and gave way, and the demons standing behind also moved to the side, as if the pieces standing in a row were falling in succession. I walked through the path created by the crowd. The facial expressions of the demons were diverse. Some were surprised, some were sick of it, some were impressed, and some were angry. But no one who made eye contact with me did anything provocative. I didn't say anything. I won the battle of momentum, but I knew that if I touched my pride for no reason, the demons would go crazy. So I quietly walked out of there. As I was about to take the last step, I felt that the demons' emotions had changed. I was respecting myself for overcoming the demons and having the courage to walk through them. Magicians are simple. When they see a weak person, they trample on them, and when they see a strong person, they worship them. It would be correct to see it as closer to nature rather than a cowardly trait. When I completely got out of there, I finally sighed. Whoa. Even though not a single word was exchanged with them, it felt like a big war had begun. I went that way to meet someone. I walked the red carpet to the front of Prince Bin. I didn't dare go up the stairs and sit down, but I was curious about how it would feel to sit there and look down at this place. At that time, a heavy voice was heard from behind. Do you want to sit down? The owner of the voice was my father. I answered without turning around. No, I don't want to be stuck in that chair. You're trying to tell me another sophistry. I smiled and turned around and bowed politely to my father. My father passed me and walked up to the royal palace. Come up here. My father called me from Tisa's side. I slowly walked up the stairs and stood next to my father. Sit down. It was a moment to say something unnecessary, but I sat down quietly. It was a place I wanted to sit down at least once. How do you feel? I looked down at the view from Tisa Temple. The first thing I noticed were the pillars on the left and right, centered around the red carpet, and the demons carved on the walls. Although it was decorated with splendid and magnificent decorations, the view of the interior from here was somehow desolate. I thought it would be very exciting, but I feel nothing. Then my father said something unexpected. So did I. I turned my head and looked up at my father. There was a hint of regret over the past years in those blunt eyes, but my father looked the same as always. The demons came here earlier. I don't know if Hyolki and Doma ordered us to come or if we came here because we planned it among ourselves. My father cut me off. We went there by ourselves. You knew. After all, my father knew everything. Both I and Parmesan are under my father's watch. They showed me outright hostility. I held on so as not to be overcome by the momentum. When I first endured it, I felt fine, but when I got out of there, I was shaking. Were you afraid of them? No, it wasn't the devils. I think I was afraid that my judgment might be wrong. If someone got excited and started a fight, I might have died right there. Even if I survive, I will not be the successor to the one who slaughtered the demons. I guess that's why I was afraid. The fact that there may come another moment when you have to make a choice that puts everything at stake. He expressed his honest feelings. I wanted to convey this feeling to someone, and it wasn't Ian, it was my father. Why? Emotionally, Ian is closer to me. When I thought about that, I wanted to see my father. My father blurted out indifferently. Mine is not a person who looks back. He is a person who only looks ahead. It's a life that looks forward without looking back. I know better than anyone else what kind of life that is. Like my father said, I won't look back, but I won't just look forward either. We looked at the site from Tisa Temple for a long time. The scenery from here is so desolate. Is there any need to erect a statue of an evil spirit like that? Because we must not forget that we are devils. Seeing the strangeness of those words, I think he might be a devil. How about a beauty statue instead? The famous Jungwon for flowers. Put one person in each corner. When I slowly turned my head, I saw my father looking down at me as if he was pitiful. Seeing all the nonsense being said, I think it's time to wake up. Please sit down, father. I got up from the temple and slowly went down the stairs. When I turned around at the bottom of the stairs, my father was still standing next to Tisa. I looked at those eyes looking down at me and asked calmly, "Can I kill Hyolki and Doma?" Episode 21 for steps are enough. Ha 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 ha. The sound of my father's laughter rang through the main hall. Is the idea of killing people something to laugh at? My father stopped laughing and spoke decisively. You can kill the demon lord, but you can't kill the blood-splitting demon. They say they can't kill you yet. Then why did you make me clash with blood heavenly demon? Take responsibility. Don't take responsibility for it. He took responsibility as cool as he answered. I will entrust the nether footprint to you. I was shocked. I never dreamed that they would appoint me to the nether state. Is that possible? Of course, nothing is impossible with the will of the heavenly demon. Is it possible that a single investigator killed the demon lord? As things progressed like this, it occurred to me that maybe my father had even considered appointing me as Lord of the Nether in the first place. You said you want to get your discipline right. I heard those words like this. I'll give you a knife, so try running wild. To put it a little worse, you become a shield and a sword bearer. There will be many things that would be difficult for the father to step forward on his own. But what if you are the youngest son of the reckless heavenly demon? Are you trying to use me to take care of the things your father has been putting off? It doesn't matter whether I die or not. I couldn't tell if it was heartless infidelity or a choice born out of a decision to make me his successor. Okay, let's not get emotional about this. What my father said the other day is right. The human mind is something that can never be known. Don't try to read minds, just judge based on what you see and hear. You are judging the situation as it unfolds, not by reading the other person's mind. My father was originally this kind of person. They are people who leave messages on the wall for their children, and they are also people who throw their children into dangerous situations if they are worth using. Rather, I feel comfortable having a father like this. Because I just have to do what my father wants and get what I need. If you send me out to kill a cow, you have to give me a knife. Is there anything you want? The name of one of the places I must visit after returning came out of my mouth. Please put me in the Heavenly Demon book. Kionma-Siagak was a place where all kinds of valuable martial arts monuments were stored, and only a few authorized people, including Kionma, were allowed to enter. Why Kionma-Siagak? My father's expression made me wonder. If you think that you can learn the magic of saving money by going there, you are greatly mistaken. It will be over after just reading the non-level titles. There were a lot of downsides to that extent. Even if you are lucky enough to find the best martial arts technique, it is at a similar level to the Baishan sword technique I have learned. My father's eyes contained doubt and reprimand, saying, "There's no way you wouldn't know that, right? I want to try my luck." My father will be curious. I wonder what on earth this guy's intention is doing this. My father stared at me for a moment and then made a decision. I don't know what evil intentions you have. Only after saying something that would have been better without adding it did my father give permission. Entry to Kionma-Siagak is permitted for 7 days. Thank you, father. 7 days. It was truly an unprecedented time for me, who was not yet an heir. This also meant that entrusting Huangqionju was an important task. Our school's discipline tells us to wait just 7 days. Ian was very excited about the fact that I was going to enter Kionma-Siagak. Boss, when you enter Kionma-Siagak, you must concentrate on memorizing one martial art before leaving. If you are greedy, you will get nothing. Be sure to eat rice. If you skip meals just to save time, you will actually lose money because your memory will decline. Oh, and it's so big you could get lost. I reflected once again as I watched Ian chattering non-stop. In my memories, Ian was a very quiet person. She is such a talkative person. I guess I was like that back then. It seems that he was just staring at the roof of Kionma-Jian, filled with the desire to become the successor. The people who will help me achieve my dream are standing right in front of me. That's probably why Ian became quiet. I am the one who made this talkative and cheerful woman quiet. Did you hear me? I heard. Focus on one thing and eat well. Sleep well. Well, I hope there are good results. Do not forget it. It is a heaven-sent opportunity to be able to enter the Heavenly Demon's Pavilion even though I am not the heir. My ears are bleeding. Maybe it's already healing. Oh, I'm sorry. I will talk less from now on. No. A reception escort with depression is even worse. Then, please keep my words in mind. Another thing you need to think about is when you are looking for a secret. Please? Actually, Ian didn't have to worry that much. Because I knew exactly where to go in that wide Kionma-Siagak pavilion. To explain why I want to enter the Heavenly Demon's Pavilion, I have to go back to the time when I was looking for the Bima Soul, the last ingredient in the method of return. I returned to the Heavenly Demon God Church after Bongmun to save Bima Soul. His face was deeply scarred, making his face unrecognizable. No one recognized me because I was already dead. It had been decades since I left the church, and my face was disfigured. I rose from an ordinary warrior to a position where I could stand alone with the new religious leader through my own efforts. It took a really long time. The last year I saved Bimahon, I was able to hear a story about a martial artist. Wind gods for treasures. The person who obtained the Pungshinsabo was Ju Baekdu, the leader of the Bongmun Demon Church at the time. You can imagine how chaotic the church must have been as the religious leader changed 6 times in the decade since Bongmun. I clearly remember what he said to me at the bar. I was able to become the leader of the religious sect because I found the lost Pungshinsabo. Pungsinsabo. The best footwork, both in name and reality, consisting of only 4 herbal formulas. It is said that it was once used to assist Kionma's martial arts, but it is said that it was put into practice at some point and was no longer passed down. However, Ju Baekdu obtained the Punkshin Sabo. The former leader and his relatives suddenly suffered a disaster, and the Heavenly Demon's German martial arts, the 9 fire demonic arts, were put into practice. The good news is that only Kionma Jian was swept away, so we were able to visit the temple with the school's power preserved. Since then, our school has been in a state of confusion over the position of the leader. If I had not obtained the Punkshin Sabo, our school would have continued to be in chaos and collapsed due to a self-inflicted rebellion. He was able to rise to the position of leader just by adding footwork to his martial arts, showing how excellent Punkshin Sabo was. Where did you get the Wind God Temple? At the Heavenly Demon's Pavilion. At that time, I was in charge of managing Kianmei Seogak. If there was a secret weapon there, why was it known that it was put into action? Because it wasn't on the bookshelf. If I hadn't been drinking with him that day, if he wasn't in a good mood that day, if he hadn't gotten drunk that day and boasted about his adventures, I wouldn't have known where Fekshin Sabo was. Kianmei Seogak was the largest library I have ever seen in my life. 99 huge bookshelves filled the library, filled with all kinds of articles on martial arts. There were world-class martial artists everywhere that made the hearts of those watching them race, and these were the best martial arts skills that our school had accumulated over a long period of time. I slowly walked between the bookshelves, savoring the smell of old books. The bookshelves were filled with endless bookshelves, filled with martial arts secrets, and it seemed like 7 days would not be enough just to read the titles. Of course, I don't have to look for a needle in the sand. It's here. The place where I stopped was in front of the 19th bookshelf. In this place, there were inscriptions on musical techniques. Of course, I don't plan on spending my new life with music. I looked under the bookshelf, not at the bookshelf. A book was supported on one side to match the height of the bookshelf, which was lowered on one side by the weight of the book. Using my inner strength, I slightly lifted the bookshelf and took out the book supported underneath. The 4 letters written on the old secret sign that came out into the world like that. Wind God for days. You were really here. I was overjoyed. I thought back to my past conversation with Ju Baekdu. Because the Wind God newspaper was not on the bookshelf. Then where were you? That precious treasure was being used as a pedestal for the 19th bookshelf. He said he discovered this because of his obsession. He was the type of person who had to place his chopsticks straight, and when he folded his clothes, he had to fold them neatly without any error. He said he couldn't eat if there was a glass of water on the corner of the table because he was worried that it would fall. At Kianmei Seogak, I noticed that the bookcase under the bookshelf was crooked and I discovered it while trying to straighten it out. I don't know why this precious piece became a bookshelf holder. Ju Baek, who discovered martial arts, also did not know. I think there must have been some secret story in the past. An incident must have occurred that made it necessary to hide the best treasure in the world here. It could be the process of a succession struggle, or it could be the result of the wrong love of a certain great heavenly demon. Or maybe it's someone's misguided ambition. Anyway, thanks to that, I became connected to Punkshin Sabo. I carefully opened the first page of the book. Before the actual speech, 1 line of proudly written words made my heart swell. Dash for steps are enough to walk the world. Yes, this is it. He is a martial artist who competes for the best in the world, so he must have this level of arrogance. Punkshin Sabo was largely composed of 4 types. Dark step. Blinking step, bright king step. Rapid step. The first step, dark step, was a walking method used when infiltrating somewhere. At first, it's just a matter of avoiding one person's eyes, but as your level rises, the number of people you can avoid increases. It was explained that if the dark treasure reaches its peak, it can disappear in an instant even with dozens of people watching. The second step, blinking, was a defensive step and was an evasion method to find a way out when an unavoidable attack came. The third step, Myeongwangbo, was a step that penetrated towards the opponent and was explained as being able to neutralize any defense or evasion. It was as if Myeongwangbo was saying this. I will open the road to hell, so you can follow it. Therefore, the Myeongwangbo and the blinking bodhisattva were truly contradictory. If there is a conflict between the 2 basic methods, the method of dodging and the method of digging, the spear will be broken or the shield will be pierced, depending on the quality of the martial artist performing the martial arts attack. The last step, the quick walk, was a light technique that showed where speed ends. The higher the level of speed gate, the narrower the midfield will become. I was confident that the Great Speed Walk would demonstrate movement beyond human limitations. In the end, the Punkshin Sabo said this: sneaking, dodging, attacking, running. When dealing with someone, aren't these for perfect steps enough? I sat in the corner of Kion Meisyogak and quietly memorized the 9 verses. Ian's advice was faithfully accepted. I ate the beef jerky I brought with me at every meal and slept soundly when it was time to sleep. Instead, with a clear mind, I focused all the remaining time on Punkshin Sabo. The depth of the confession was as deep as the sea, and the meaning contained was as wide as the sky. It was a martial art created to be used by modifying it to suit the situation based on one excellent herbal technique. Therefore, it was much more difficult to understand than martial arts, which were tightly structured with dozens of herbal formulas. It was a depth that I would never have been able to understand if I had not lived my life before returning. Was that why? The first time I read it was different, the second time I read it was different, and the 10th time I read it was different. So I lost track of time and fell in love with the structure. 7 days after entering Kion Meisyogak, I had completely memorized the verses of Punkshin Sabo and was able to unfold them. Of course, I was only at the level of Ilseong, and the only thing left to do was to increase my level through continued training. I tore off the most important part of the book, swallowed it, and placed the rest under the bookshelf. Punkshin Sabo's role changed from being the best treasure in the world to being a bookshelf stand. I don't want another lucky person to come along and learn the Punkshin Sabo. I want to be honest about my desires. Then I took my first steps outside Kion Meisyogak. Episode 22, You Can Teach Me Secretly. After leaving Kion Meisyogak, I visited Kion Majian. I'm home. My father, who was quietly looking down at me, made me come forward. Come closer. I walked 5 steps forward. A little more. 3 steps this time. More. I walked right up to the stairs. My father was exploring me. You may have been curious about what kind of martial arts I learned, but since I walked without using the wind god Sabo, you couldn't tell anything from my movements. What martial arts did you learn at Kion Meisyogak? It's a secret. Of course, my father unleashed his demonic power without hesitation, as if he knew I would come out like this. I won't ask twice. The Magi that flew in was on a different level from the Magi sent by the demons earlier. It wasn't a tingling or pain, but rather a feeling of falling into a dark abyss. My body became cold and the flow of true energy naturally slowed down. Since I had no intention of hiding it from my father in the first place, I answered honestly. I learned the walking method. What kind of footwork? This is the Wind God newspaper. This is silence created by surprise. Soon, the demonic energy that had been temporarily suppressed attacked me again. Stop talking nonsense. It's true. Magi dragged me deeper into the abyss. Even as the demonic energy rose up to my neck and even into my face, I could not hide my gaze towards my father. I fell into an abyss like a swamp. I was out of breath. I was wondering if they would kill me, but the inevitable fear of suffocation came over me. That moment. It felt like something huge was looking at me in the dark. The moment my eyes met, the things that were weighing me down disappeared and I was standing at the edge of the red carpet of Kion Majian. The father, who had collected the demon energy, spoke as if giving a command. Try the martial arts you learned. My father still didn't believe it was the wind god's treasure. What will you give me in return? My father made a bewildered expression. Because there has never been a time in your life when someone asked you for something with conditions. I want to live. I smiled slightly, stepped back, and stood in the middle of the main hall. And he slowly unfolded the Punkshin Sabo. As soon as the secret message unfolded, my father suddenly got up from his seat. From the first step, I noticed that it was different from other martial arts. That's how I finished my first meal of Punkshin Sabo. My father didn't show his emotions often, but now he couldn't hide his shock. Because it was a practiced martial art, my father must have seen Punkshin Sabo for the first time today, and he knew exactly how great this martial art was. Where did you learn the Punkshin Sabo? Now my father believed that this method was the Pungsinsa method. I learned it at Kion Meisyogak. Quick! In an instant, my father came across the space in front of me, grabbed my neck, and asked coldly. How do you tell me a lie? He was going to break my neck right away. It was the first time my father touched my body and the feeling I felt was anger. But I wasn't angry. He is a father who is serious about martial arts. That's why it's there and why it's so strong. I understand this, father. There was no Punction Sabo in Kian Meisyogak. A cold energy that seemed to freeze the blood in my entire body was transmitted through my father's fingertips. It was a different feeling from being immersed in the abyss before. I definitely learned it there. It's a lie. Can you guarantee that you have seen all of those secrets? It could have been on a different bookshelf than the one where the bobiop was put on. Then you knew that Punction Sabo was there. I didn't know. Lie. I really didn't know. I discovered it by chance while trying to learn another martial art. I just pulled out this part. Because there is no other way to explain it. Of course, my father won't believe it. My father withdrew his hand from holding my neck and asked again. Where have you been? It was being used as a stand under the bookshelf. But how did you discover it? I found it while trying to straighten something that was crooked. My father, who was wondering whether to believe this, tried to call his subordinate to bring it to him. I guess the important part of the secret has already been eliminated. How did you know? Because I would have done the same. My father glared at me for a moment and then returned to Tisa as fast as he had come flying towards me. Call Gugyul. Also, this is how my father is. My goal is not to defeat my father and ascend to the position of heavenly demon. I have no intention of waiting for the fire weapon guy in the same situation as last time. Killing the guy was important, but the purpose of my return was to save my father and the Kion Magian family. I won't let revenge be the be-all and end-all of this return. Revenge is the reason for returning, and the purpose of returning is to live happily in this life. After killing Huamu Gi, he plans to live a happy life wandering around the world without being tied to any religion until his father takes over his place. From then on, this is my real life. I will live a free life with this young body. The title of my autobiography is Life is Like a Sword Dance. Therefore, teaching my father how to walk is no problem. Of course, it can't be done for free. I don't like it. I spoke quickly to save my angry father the trouble of flying back at me. Nothing is free in this world. I remember the secret technique I taught you at the hunting ground was free. That's the cost of the alcohol you drank at the hunting lodge. My father looked dumbfounded at my shameless words. How on earth have you held back until now? Such a shameless guy. It has to be big to be perfect. Now I am taller than my father. I gritted my teeth and held on until it got this big. I never said a word to my father. Father, I can't win. You don't know how much trouble I've had. I have come close to death several times. Is there anything you want? Since what you are giving is free work, it would be fair to receive it in return for free work. I think it would be nice to learn the 9 fire magic gong, but that seems difficult, so I want to take the heavenly demon protection god gong, as a regret. There was silence for a moment. Kionma self-defense gong is literally a self-defense technique that protects the body, and was a martial art taught only to Kionma. Not possible. This is Punction Sabo. Strictly speaking, this is a business where I lose money. Only the heavenly demon and his successors can learn the heavenly demon defense technique. You can teach me secretly. Anyway, the heavenly demon protector is a martial art that is activated so that it never shows up, so others will never know. It was a martial art that was never known to the outside world. I could feel my father's concern. If you show up with a straight face, get angry, and put pressure on me, I will eventually have to tell you. But my father didn't do that. My father was my father. Anyway, in my situation, it was a martial arts skill that I absolutely had to obtain. If you learn the heavenly demon defense, you gain 1 more life. Think about it and give me a message. I greeted him politely and was about to turn around when I heard my father's voice. Instead, Punction Sabo comes first. Surprisingly, my father decided to teach me the Kionma defense god technique. Are you really telling me how to protect the heavenly demon? I thought maybe my father wanted me to be his successor. Or is it because he's going to die fighting the Parmezans anyway, so he doesn't care? Great. Why are you willingly accepting it? I might just receive the Punction Sabo and not tell you. At least you're not the kind of person who would do something embarrassing in front of your son. A sneer crossed my father's lips. The fact that I even used the expression embarrassing was the best I could do. How can my father not know my inner thoughts? I'm sorry, father. But you can't just hand over the Punction Sabo, right? Fortunately, my father's reaction wasn't that bad. Because he is the kind of person who would value receiving compensation in this way more highly than foolishly offering his martial arts skills. Good night. Tell me the fate. Yes. I told my father about the fate of Punks in Sabo. My father quietly closed his eyes and remembered the old saying. When 3 o'clock had passed, my father began to unfold the Punks in Sabo. I watched it without blinking. The Punks in Sabo my father unfolded was the same as the one I unfolded, but it was also different. My father seemed to be saying this. I interpret this martial art like this. I imprinted my father's Punks in Sabo in my mind without missing a single movement. I don't mean to imitate this. What parts are different from me and why? This is because we know that the level of martial arts is determined by how we interpret the subtle differences. After finishing the meal, my father fell into deep thought. I, too, fell into deep meditation while comparing the Punks in Sabo that my father had just opened and the Punks in Sabo that I had just opened. I must learn. My father's attitude toward martial arts. The way the best think and the depth of interpretation. Eventually, my father woke up from meditation. That's a really good martial arts skill. If my father said I was a good martial artist, this was high praise. You can't swallow it because of your guilty conscience, right? My father snorted, but this time he was filled with satisfaction. Now we have created the largest variable after regression. Will Hwamugi be able to defeat his father, who has even mastered the Wind God for treasures? Of course, I planned to kill Hwamugi, but delivering the Wind God newspaper to my father was a kind of preparedness measure. My father kept his promise. From now on, I will teach you the Heavenly Demon Defense Technique. I'll only say it once, so memorize it well. Before hearing the prayers, I sat cross-legged in my seat. Because my father will only say it once, I try to memorize it with my body rather than with my head. Unless you're an expert like me, you shouldn't try this. My father began to teach me the martial art of the Heavenly Demon Tiger. Move the bet gently from Mying Munhail to Sinew Jisil Wayu. The true energy at this time should be as light as snow falling on a blade of grass. Speed is important, from one metaphor to another. Walk and run, then increase your speed as if you were flying lightly, and when you reach Shinju Pungmun Gokwan, pour down with force like a waterfall. Gugil was obviously difficult from the beginning. The level of difficulty is truly extreme. My heart was really pounding as I moved my spirit according to the rules. I felt resentful of my father for not stopping me from running the district myself even though I knew it was such a difficult district. Naturally, several crises arose. We overcame small crises well, but towards the end, we faced a major crisis. In an instant, the true energy flowed back and the blood vessels surged as if they were about to explode. The tense blood vessels felt as if they might burst at any moment. If I hadn't strengthened my blood vessels with the Kian Mark strengthening technique earlier, I would have definitely suffered serious internal injuries. Learning the art of strengthening the heavenly veins was a plan for today. Then I won't die today. At the edge of the cliff, where death from ignition and internal injuries awaited me if I fell, I became the embodiment of positivity and fought back. And I believed. I am not destined to die while learning martial arts from my father. Did my faith work? The excitement that had been running wild like a wild horse subsided. The internal power flowed along the bloodstream where it was supposed to go, and I, who had overcome the critical moment, was able to complete the last part of the Heavenly Demon Defense Technique. Whoa! I took a long breath and slowly opened my eyes. My father was standing at the large window of Kion Magian, looking out. Did you know that I was in such a big crisis? Would you have helped me if I had fallen into a coin trap? I couldn't be sure of anything until I heard the words from my father's mouth, "From now on, you are the next millionaire." My father, perhaps aware of my feelings, looked out the window and told me about the greatness of the Heavenly Demon Tiger. When life comes to a critical point, the Heavenly Demon Defense God's technique activates on its own. In the future, if the Heavenly Demon's Defense God skill achieves greatness, you will never die. The moment I heard that, one question came to my mind. But why did your father die? Episode 23, I lived a good life. My father must have achieved great success, but why didn't he activate the Heavenly Demon Defense? Did you happen to get hit even after the Heavenly Demon Defense Force was activated? Or did you fight so intensely that you didn't even have enough energy left to use the Heavenly Demon Defense Sword? The more I learn about my father's incredible inaction, the more I question his death. Did Hwamugi really beat a father like this? I want to ask my father. What on earth happened that day? But I can't ask. Because it hadn't even happened yet. And I will never know. Because that will never happen. I smiled and said to my father, there is a secret between my father and me. I'm happier about that than learning the Kyonma self-defense technique. My father frowned, as if the word secret bothered him. I quickly added and turned around. Even if you're annoyed, you can't do anything about me. I'm still more familiar with Pungsinsa Temple. I ran out of there in an instant at a fast pace. It was just as my new model arrived at the end of the red carpet. Shush! I felt something passing by me along with the sound of a cool breeze. The next moment I stopped trotting. Before I knew it, my father was blocking my path. Perfect! Then he flicked my forehead mercilessly with his finger. It wasn't a situation to avoid, and even if I tried, my father's movements were so fast that I couldn't avoid it. Aya! I cupped my forehead. It wasn't a big deal. It hurt so much that several stars passed before my eyes. I thought you were faster than me because you were acting so proud. The next moment, my father disappeared. He disappeared from my sight using the dark walk, and soon after, he used the speed walk to return to the tisa where he was sitting. When I saw that movement, I felt again that my interpretation of martial arts was definitely different from mine. I could tell. I didn't come here to hit you on the forehead because you hate me. My father is showing it intentionally. This is what I interpreted from the Punction Sabo. The method used by the deceased is Punction Sabo. What on earth is that light technique you showed me in the first place? It's the heavenly demon flight art. Kyonma flying technique is my father's German light technique. Is it faster than speed walking? Of course it's fast now. I don't know what will happen if Punction Sabo becomes a success. The day I achieve greatness, the final decision will be made. I will achieve greatness first, so I will already know the result. You never know. I might achieve greatness sooner. Wouldn't that make your young head feel tight? It bleeds from that smart head. Blood was trickling down from my forehead in the middle of the night. I should have asked you to teach me the Diamond Buddha God Gong. He went to the Battle of Kyonma with a glorious scar hanging on his forehead. It is a wound that money cannot buy. I felt like I was one step closer to my father again. Of course, you have to be careful when you have these thoughts. In human relationships, mistakes are always made when we let our guard down just because we are close. Anyway, with this martial arts exchange, both my father and I took a step forward. The future with the coming of fire weapons was fixed, but the present was constantly changing. What kind of guy is this? What kind of arrogant bastard touched your body? Ian was excited when he saw my bruised forehead. Now she is a passionate older sister who was brought in by her own younger brother. If you know? Get revenge. I have to do it. Just say the word. Who are you? I'll go right now. I got hit by my father. Why aren't you going? Ian suddenly became calm and took a step back. I am a protector, not an attacker. I laughed as I watched her speak clearly. It's fun to exchange jokes and pranks like this, which I couldn't do before. It's also fun to see the smile disappearing as if the eyes are buried in the flesh. Oh, and I became a foot in the netherworld. Once the official appointment is made, I will enter Hwangkyongak. Ian was so surprised that he made a bewildered expression. Are you saying this in such a trivial way that you have become the Lord of the Nether? What's that big deal? Oh my God. Are you saying this without knowing how prestigious Hwangkyongak is? It's like a nether note. It's a place where even Masons are taken to Hwangkyongak and punished if they commit a crime. Why don't you know? That's why my father sent me. Perhaps my becoming a member of the Netherworld will once again cause a big stir on campus. Congratulations, I really congratulate you. Thank you. But why did the leader suddenly appoint you to the Hwangkyan province? I guess you felt sorry for hitting me. Don't joke. I told you. This school needs to change. To a place where you don't have to learn martial arts that destroys your body to protect someone. Ian was shocked and asked with a trembling voice. What do you mean by that? We will make this school a place where you don't have to live with a fat body for the rest of your life as a side effect of full body petrification. Ian looked dumbfounded. How long had I been so dazed? No way, did you know? Okay. Soon she smiled and said indifferently. It's the path I chose. It was just something I was forced to do at a young age. No. Ian was adamant. I remember clearly. He told me that day. There are these side effects if you learn full body petrification. So the choice is yours. That's why I chose it. That choice would not have been justified. I would have asked this to the little girl. You have to learn this martial art to protect the master, but can you take the side effects? So the choice is forced. But I didn't say that to her. Because I didn't want to diminish her pride in knowing that it was her choice. I will fix those side effects. Not now, but later. Ian smiled and answered. I can't fix it. I can fix it. Trust me. Yes, I will believe it. She took what I said as a joke. It was probably said by someone who taught martial arts. They say side effects can never be eliminated. Ian changed the subject, as if he didn't want to talk about it anymore. But if you become a nether state, won't the existing nether states revolt? What can I do? It's an order given by the leader. Actually, I wasn't too worried about the existing nether footprint. Judging from the process of handling the previous demon army incident, it was clear that he had been captured or threatened by the demon army. My father probably appointed me because he had to step down anyway. Sima Ming will handle his resignation well. I am rather worried about the backlash from the military practitioners who see the work. Wouldn't it be a shame if the heavenly demon son was suddenly reduced to a footnote? The person who passed away is such a wonderful person that no one will be upset. Thank you for even saying that. Because the evaluation of the person who gives the monthly salary is determined. I smiled at her constant jokes and brought up the story I had been putting off. I'm talking about Wolbong. Ian, I have something to take care of this time. From now on, listen carefully to what I say. Yes, please tell me anything. Receiving escort Ian, I am dismissing you as my receiving escort from this moment on. Ian's big body jumped up and came down with a thud. She was so surprised that she felt sorry. What do you mean by that all of a sudden? Fired from reception escort. Are you serious? Who? She looked at me with an expression that had lost everything in the world. Let me ask you again. Are you serious? Her voice trembled pitifully, but I answered firmly. I'm serious. May I ask why? For not avenging my father. She didn't laugh even at jokes. Slurp. She pulled out her sword and aimed it at her own neck. I would rather die. I will die as your guard. Ian, dying once is enough. I quickly told her. I don't mean to break up with me. I have to remain as a military officer under my wing. Ooh. You should have said it earlier. You almost died. Please look at my neck and see if it's hurt. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief. But that didn't mean all the worries went away. But my calling is to be a reception guard. I've never thought about doing anything else. What on earth are you trying to do? Unmanned Ian. I now give you a new position. Yes. I appoint you as the Great Lord of the Demon Lord. She was just as surprised as she was when she heard earlier that she was being dismissed from her position as a reception guard. A tattoo shop? Is there such an organization at our school? Does not exist. You're entrusting me with lending money to an organization that doesn't exist. I will make it in the future. As an organization directly under my direct control, monthly salaries will be received from me, not from the church. Guayongdi, do you mean the shadow of a ghost? Who? If I had to put it into words, I will become a ghost, so you should become my shadow. The name was deliberately named with a shadow character in it. She has lived as my shadow all her life, so it will be a name that makes me feel closer to her. I like the name. By the way, did you get permission from the religious leader? Yet. The creation of private organizations at our school was strictly prohibited. I will definitely get permission. You will do it, Master. The problem is me. Why you? Why? First of all, I don't have the skills to take charge of such a great organization, right? Don't worry about that. I will teach you martial arts skills appropriate for that position. Even if I become stronger, would I be suitable for such a position? No one will follow me. I will follow. Everyone will fall in love with your personality and follow you. And one day, they will realize that the leader they follow is the best in the world. Yes, this martial arts group will see the most powerful organization in history led by the best in the world. Ian, can you be a guardian for me? Her gaze became entangled in the air. Her confidence was at an all-time low, but as long as the words "for me" were included, her answer was set. I will serve 4 people. Good. Right now, I am the only leader, but later on, it will become the strongest organization in Murim. And from now on, throw away your existing martial arts skills and practice training to improve your internal skills and increase your physical strength. When the time comes, I will teach you a new martial art. All right. Although he answered bravely, Ian looked confused, not knowing whether to be happy or worried. Then who will protect you from now on? Are you a kid? Protect me. A warrior must protect his own body. There was only worry in her eyes, which had become small and buried in her flesh. I don't know what to say. Just say thank you. We will also give you the highest monthly salary among our university's major shareholders. You don't have money, do you? I will earn it. What are you doing? There are all kinds of ways to make money. If it doesn't work out, I'll have to sweep Kion Majian's yard. Master, I don't need that money. I saved all the money I've earned so far. Money is always needed. Because that is the ransom and self-worth. I give it because it is worth giving. So don't feel pressured. Yes. And once you start spending money, it's easy. Relentlessly collect more. Life is long. Unlucky to live to be 100 years old. No, I might have to go back to the old age and live another 100 years. Ian laughed at my joking remark. If it were me before, I would have been worried about her. Can we accept this change? Could there be a problem? But after living my whole life, I realized that all those worries were in vain. I didn't have to worry. Everyone was smarter than I thought, took care of themselves more, and lived well. Episode 24. What will happen will happen. There was plenty of time before he was officially appointed to Hwangkyong-gakju. In the meantime, I decided to take care of one thing. I plan to give the best treatment to the new members of Gwaeongdi who will come in the future. Loyalty is not about squeezing youth under the guise of faking it, but rather rewarding them with a monthly salary commensurate with their abilities. You don't know when you'll die in life, so you just have to avoid gambling, whether you waste your money on a binge or buy land, a house, and prepare for retirement. To do that, a huge amount of money was needed, and by this time I knew how to make a lot of money. After leaving a note with Ian saying that I would come back for a moment to get some fresh air, I left the school secretly. My life was one with regression in mind. I spent most of my time busy and hard looking for DAFA materials, but even then, I made sure to remember what I needed to remember. I know exactly when and where the events that have occurred in Murim over the decades have occurred that I can utilize. The place where the incident took place this time was a village near Waishan, Fujian province. An event occurs there that I must never miss. In order to practice, I ran to the place at a fast pace using the Pungsin Seibo. Although I was just beginning to walk, the more I ran, the more I fell in love with its profundity. When I was resting, I would look at the distant plains and get lost in old thoughts, and when the wind blowing from the horizon would blow sand and dust, I would get up and run again. Depending on the day the incident occurred, one day I ran excitedly and another day I ran slowly. I ran and ran like that until I arrived at the village below Mount Wui. There is a story I heard from an old Ronin when I was wandering around as a Ronin. It is said that he once ran a Ronin office and collected commissions. The incident that occurred at that time when he was drunk, the incident that started with a sigh, that was a terrible thing that happened here today. I asked a business person to find out where the Ronin office was. There was a place where the old people gathered in an old building at the end of the street. When I entered, there were about a dozen Ronin sitting in a suffocatingly narrow space. Some Ronin were dozing off against the wall, while others were polishing their weapons or chatting in groups. A few eyes focused on me, but then dispersed, unable to find anything of interest. I walked over to a middle-aged man who was sitting at a desk in the corner and writing something. When I saw him, my heart sank. He was Lim Chu, who informed us of today's events during his time as a Ronin. "Do you have a job?" Lim Chu raised his head at my question. "Is this your first time seeing this face? Who did you recommend?" "Brother Xiaguang told me to go." "What kind of person is Seo Muingwa?" "We've worked together before." "What happened?" "I helped my brother with his work at Mount Hyeongsan." "It was a disturbance incident, right?" "No, it was the Namak faction." Even though I knew it, I could tell that I had asked the wrong question. Since it was a place where all kinds of people gathered, Lim Chu was trying to identify them carefully. But I had already prepared. You can trust it if it's a recommendation from Seo Muin. Can you work today? Of course. I just happened to have a big case today, so I'm glad you came. Go over there and wait. Because more people need to gather. I went and sat down where he said. Some Ronin glanced at me, but I didn't even pay them a glance. After about an hour, all the people ready to go on the mission had gathered. There were a total of 15 people. In his last life, Lim Chu said that there were 50 Ronin mobilized for this work. Anyway, these are the braggadocios of drunkards. Anyway, even with 15 people, it was definitely a big task. Normally, the Ronin would be mobilized for at least 2 or at most 6 or 7 jobs. Unless it was truly an emergency, I didn't spend this much of my rough life wandering around. Mr. Yang will be leading the tour today. Yang Dang, who was introduced, was a man with a long history as a Ronin. It is a mission that is as dangerous as it is well paid. Anyone who acts like an asshole will die by my hands first, so you know that. After warning everyone, both parties approached me. Recommended by Seo Unmanned. Exactly. Can I trust your skills? If I cut someone, will I be recognized? Is that you? I didn't want to look like a Ronin if I went out too low, so I went out with a moderate amount of force. Hey, don't be cocky. And then, this world is what drops like the morning dew. I didn't bother to argue because I felt that they were trying to discipline the Ronin by using me as an example. I will follow orders well, don't worry. I just get paid and that's it. We'll see. So the 15 Ronin got on the prepared horses and carriages and headed somewhere. Only after finding out the final location through several contacts was I able to meet the woman and the boy. With their faces so similar, no one could tell they were mother and son. Only after meeting them did both parties tell us about this mission. We have to get those 2 people safely to Nampyeong. We have to move as quickly as possible. The fact that 15 Ronin were mobilized for the escort mission meant that the status of this woman and boy was great. At the same time, it also meant that they were in great danger. The kid in the carriage looked at me through the window. He was a cute and handsome boy. I smiled and waved at the child and he nodded. He seemed to have a good personality and was well educated. The woman I was riding with bowed lightly to me and closed the curtain. Her face was full of anxiety and worry. So the carriage carrying the 2 people started running. The Ronin rode together on horseback, escorting the carriage back and forth. The carriage stopped only when the horses were tired and could no longer run. As the horses rested, the people also ate and rested. Both parties distributed the beef jerky they had prepared to the Ronin. The woman and child were given separately prepared food. The Ronin received twice the amount of money they normally receive for this mission. The 2 parties leading them would have received several times more. Perhaps that was why he was so focused on completing this mission safely. I don't know when I'll eat again. So everyone eat well. After resting for about half an hour, the carriage departed again. How long has it been since you set off? A Ronin fell from a running horse. Stop! The Ronin stopped and looked at the fallen man. He was dead, with a black face and foam at the mouth. He died. The Ronin who was reporting was surprised when he saw his colleague who was with him. To be exact, both were surprised. They too had blood vessels in their eyes and their faces had turned black. Poison? The moment I said those words, they grabbed my neck and fell back. Ooh! The faces and bodies of the Ronin turned black and they fell down one after another. There were 3 people who did not collapse until the end. It was the 2 parties that led us, another Ronin, and me. I could tell from the way they looked at me. These people have released the poison. This is something that even I didn't know about. In the past, when I heard from Lim Chu, I heard that the Ronin were attacked by an external attack and their bodies were not even found. I never would have thought that the guide had poisoned the food. They probably disposed of all the corpses to hide that they had poisoned them. Why didn't you die? Both parties looked at me with surprised faces and asked. Because I didn't eat the beef jerky you gave me. How can I eat food given to me by someone I met for the first time today? Many things have changed since I regressed, but there are also some things that have not changed. Just as the fate of the monk who mixed his rice with acid poison was destined to die that day, so was the death of these Ronin people today. Even if we try to prevent unnecessary killings, unavoidable things like this still happen. What will change, and what will happen, will happen. The two men drew their swords at the same time. It would have been better to eat that and die. Just then, something unexpected happened. Phew! Yang Dang's sword pierced the other Ronin's back and came out through his chest. TSK! The man collapsed, spouting blood. I shook my head and said to him, "Are you stupid? I should have killed him after he had to deal with me. Do you know what my skills are? This guy is so calculating and selfish that he would never have tried to fight first. If I have to fight first anyway, it would be better to just kill you while you are distracted." It seems like the two had similar skills. It's such a pathetic life. If you live your life standing in line and stabbing others in the back, won't it be your turn? No one will stand behind my back, so stop worrying. What on earth are you going to do with the money you earned by killing your colleagues like this? There's a lot to do. Drink alcohol and buy women. Kill this many people just for that? The ghosts will all be hanging on you. Will your load be so heavy that it will be able to stand? You idiot. Just worry about your life. The reason he killed his colleague was because he had a special belief in him. 4 men appeared there. 3 of the 4 people wore masks, and only the man who appeared to be the leader was not wearing a mask. I could see from their eyes and gait that they were quite capable people. "Are you here?" Both parties greeted each other politely. From their tone and actions, it seemed as if the newcomers had employed both parties. The 2 parties and I were not concerned about the man who was not wearing a mask. He shouted as he looked at the carriage, "Stop coming out! Before they burn the whole carriage down." Then a woman and a child got out of the carriage with frightened faces. "I was scolded to find you because you were so good at hiding like a rat." The woman ejaculated to the man, "Quan Mu In, please at least save our sheep." The woman seemed to know the man well. The man called Quan seemed to think for a moment. "Great. I will save your life out of respect for the past." The moment when joy and hope flashed across the woman's face. Quan showed his mean true nature. "Did you know it would be like this? You damn bitch. How can I be considered a master when getting down on my knees and begging isn't enough?" Quan chuckled, teasing his anxious mother. The surprised child was hugged by the width of her mother's skirt. The woman's expression hardened as she was humiliated by her subordinate. However, wanting to somehow save her child, the woman ejaculated again. "If you save Yang, I will give you 10 times the amount of money you received. No matter how much money is the best, it cannot be more important than life. Your father has already been subdued and captured. It's all over." The woman let out a sorrowful sigh upon hearing that her father had been subdued. At that time, the gaze of the person called Quan turned towards me. I was smiling and waving to the child who looked like he was about to start crying at any moment, just like when I first met him. Quan, who thought that appearance did not suit the situation, asked Yang Dang, "What is that guy? Wasn't it a subordinate?" Everyone's eyes were focused on me. In particular, the eyes of the woman holding the child were full of earnestness, hoping for a change. I walked slowly and blocked the woman and child. "I am the person who agreed to take these 2 people to their destination in exchange for money. The people you need to protect are also the people you stand behind." It was the moment when a rope made of twisted silk thread was placed in the hands of a woman who had to grasp at straws.